Picture this. You're standing in a marketplace 9,000 years ago. There are no coins in your pocket, no bills, no cards, no little glowing screen that says payment approved, and yet, somehow, you're about to walk home with a bag of grain, a new axe, and a fish for dinner. How? We tend to think money is as natural as breathing, like it's just there, baked into how humans work. But money is an invention, a recent one. For the vast, overwhelming majority of human history, our ancestors ran an entire economy, moved goods across continents, fed families, built the first cities without a single coin existing anywhere on Earth. And here's the strange part. It worked. For tens of thousands of years, it worked. So how did they do it? How do you buy something when the thing we call buying hasn't been invented yet? The answer is weirder, cleverer, and honestly more human than anything you were taught in school. Because the story of trade before money isn't a story about goods, it's a story about trust. And the deeper you go, the stranger it gets. Let's start with the thing everyone assumes. Ask most people how ancient humans traded, and they'll say the same word instantly: barter. You give me 2 chickens, I give you a pot. Simple, clean, everybody's happy. There's just one problem. That's probably not how it happened, at least not the way you're imagining. The classic barter story goes like this. Before money, people walked around swapping stuff directly, one thing for another, until some genius invented coins and fixed the whole mess. It's a tidy story. It's in textbooks. It's the version economists told for 200 years. And when anthropologists actually went looking for it, societies that ran purely on barter, swapping goods item for item as their main economy, they found almost nothing. No clear historical example of a large community that lived that way, day to day, before using money. Sit with that for a second. The origin story of money, the one we've repeated for centuries, may be mostly a myth. So, if they weren't haggling over chickens and pots all day, what were they actually doing? Here's where it gets interesting. Imagine you live in a small village. Everyone knows everyone. Your neighbor catches more fish than his family can eat. You've got extra grain from a good harvest. Does he stand in front of you, arms crossed, negotiating an exact exchange rate, 3 fish for 2 handfuls of grain, final offer? Of course not. That would be insane. You'd think he'd lost his mind. Instead, he just gives you some fish. And you don't pay him back. Not today. Not with anything specific. But you both remember, this is what anthropologists call a gift economy, and it ran human life for a very, very long time. The idea is beautifully simple. You give things away. Freely, but every gift creates an invisible thread, a quiet debt of obligation that says, I've got you, and someday, you've got me. It's not charity. Make no mistake, if you took and never gave back, the whole village would notice. And in a world with no police and no walls, being the person nobody trusts wasn't just embarrassing. It was dangerous. So the currency wasn't shells or grain or gold. The currency was your reputation, your standing. Whether people believed you'd come through when it counted. In a small enough world, your good name was your bank account. And that raises an obvious question. This works great when you know everybody. But what happens the moment you have to trade with a total stranger, someone you might never see again, who has 0 reason to trust you and every reason to rob you? This is the problem that nearly broke early trade, and the solutions humans came up with are genuinely wild. Because here's the thing about strangers, the invisible threat of reputation doesn't reach them. If a man from 3 valleys overhands you an axe and walks off, there's no village to shame him if the axe is garbage. There's no shared memory. There's just you, him, and a whole lot of "I hope this goes okay." So how do you trade across that gap? One answer archaeologists have found is almost unbelievable in its cleverness. It's sometimes called silent trade. Two groups who don't share a language, don't trust each other, and maybe have a history of violence still want to exchange goods. So they invent a system with no face-to-face contact at all. One group leaves their goods in a known spot, a riverbank, a clearing, and then retreats out of sight. The other group comes, inspects the pile, and lays down what they think it's worth beside it. Then they retreat. The first group returns. If they're happy, they take the payment and leave. If not, they leave everything untouched, the signal for not enough, try again. No words. No violence. No trust required. Just a slow, patient dance of piles on a riverbank until both sides quietly agree they've got a fair deal. Think about how much intelligence is hiding in that. Two groups of humans who can't even speak to each other, building a functioning economy out of nothing but restraint and body language and the willingness to wait. That's not primitive. That's genius. But silent trade only moved goods a short distance. And here's the part that should genuinely stop you. Some objects in the ancient world traveled hundreds, even thousands of miles, long before anyone had money, maps, or a word for market. So who was moving them, and why? Let's talk about a rock. Specifically, a black, glassy volcanic rock called obsidian. Obsidian is beautiful, and more importantly, it's brutally sharp. Chip it right, and you get an edge finer than surgical steel. For a Stone Age human, this was cutting-edge technology in the most literal sense. Everyone wanted it. The catch? Obsidian only forms near volcanoes. So if you didn't live near one, you had a problem, and somebody, somewhere, saw a solution. Archaeologists can actually fingerprint obsidian. Each volcanic source has a slightly different chemical signature, so we can trace a blade back to the exact mountain it came from. And what they found is staggering. Obsidian from a single source in what's now Turkey shows up hundreds of kilometers away, carried across the ancient Near East roughly 8,000 to 10,000 years ago. Nobody drove it there. There were no wheels for a good chunk of that time. It moved on foot, hand to hand, village to village. And that's the key insight. It probably wasn't one heroic trader making an epic 1,000-mile journey. It was more like a bucket brigade of trust. Each village traded with the next one down the line, and the next, and the next, and the obsidian rippled outward across the world one short, trusting handoff at a time. Your neighbor didn't need to know the guy at the volcano. He just needed to trust the guy in the next valley over. And that guy trusted his neighbor. Trust stacked on trust, until a rock crossed a continent. The stuff was moving, but the people, mostly, weren't. Let that reframe how you picture the ancient world. Which brings us to the objects that took this idea and turned it into something almost spiritual. Off the coast of Papua New Guinea, there's a trading tradition so strange, so beautiful, and so revealing that anthropologists have been obsessed with it for over a century. It's called the Kula ring. Here's how it works. Islanders climb into canoes and paddle across genuinely dangerous open ocean, risking their lives, to exchange two kinds of ceremonial objects: red shell necklaces and white shell armbands. That's it. That's the trade. And these objects are, in any practical sense, useless. You can't eat them. You can't cut with them. You can't build a house out of them. They just get passed around. Here's the truly mind-bending rule. The necklaces always travel in one direction around the ring of islands, clockwise. The armbands always travel the other way, counter-clockwise. You receive a famous necklace, you hold it, you gain prestige from having held it, and then you have to give it away. You can never keep it. Now, why on earth would anyone risk their life crossing the ocean to trade objects they're not even allowed to keep? Because, and this is the whole point, the necklaces were never the point. The Kula ring isn't about the shells. It's about everything the shells carry with them. Alliances, relationships, status, peace between islands that could otherwise be at war. Every time a necklace changes hands, it renews a bond between two people. The object is just the visible proof of an invisible relationship. It's a friendship you can hold. The famous shells weren't the treasure. The trust was the treasure. The shells were just the receipt. And that idea that a physical object can be a stand-in for a relationship, a reputation, a promise, is about to flip this entire story upside down. Because we've spent this whole time asking how humans traded without money. But what if that's the wrong question? What if these people didn't lack money at all? Here's the reversal. Get ready to rethink everything. We started with a simple assumption. First came barter, then came trust-based gift economies, and then, finally, some clever society invented money to make trade easier. A neat little staircase of progress, primitive to advanced. But look back at what we just walked through. The debts of obligation between neighbors. The reputation that worked like a bank account. The obsidian rippling across continents on stacked-up trust. The Kula necklace that's really a walking, paddling IOU. Notice what every single one of those has in common. They're all debt. They're all somebody remembering that somebody else owes them. And debt, the abstract idea that you owe me, and we both know it, might be far, far older than any coin. Older than gold. Older, possibly, than barter itself. So flip the whole staircase around. Money didn't come along to replace a clumsy barter system. That barter system may never have really existed. Instead, the abstract idea of debt, of owing, of accounts kept in memory and honor, came first. It ran the human world for tens of thousands of years. And coins, when they finally showed up, weren't the birth of a brand new idea. Coins were just a way to write down a debt so precisely that you could hand it to a stranger. Read that again. Money wasn't invented to let us trade. We'd been trading for ages. Money was invented so we could stop trusting each other. That's the twist. A coin is a portable piece of trust for a world that had gotten too big for everyone to know everyone. It let you carry your reputation in your pocket and spend it on someone who'd never heard your name. We didn't invent money because we got smarter. We invented it because we got more numerous, more anonymous, more spread out, and we needed something to do the job that a good name used to do in a small village. Money isn't the opposite of trust. Money is what trust looks like when it's between strangers. So let's come back to that marketplace, 9,000 years ago. The one with no coins in your pocket. You walk home with your grain, your axe, and your fish, and you didn't buy any of it, not the way we mean the word. You participated in something older and, in a strange way, warmer, a web of obligation and memory and reputation stretched across your whole community. A system where every exchange was also a relationship and every gift was a quiet promise about tomorrow. We often look at ancient humans and feel a little smug. No writing, no wheels for a while, no money. How did they even function? But they built a working economy out of the most sophisticated technology in the natural world. The human ability to remember who's fair, to trust a stranger's stranger, and to believe that a good turn today will come back around someday. They didn't need coins to do it. They needed each other. And maybe that's the thing worth sitting with tonight. Every time you tap a card or send a payment in half a second, you're using a tool we built to survive a world of strangers. It's astonishing. It's efficient. And it's a little bit lonely. Because underneath every coin ever minted is a much older, much stranger human instinct. the one that ran the whole world before money existed. The belief that we're all, quietly, keeping track. And that somehow, in the end, it all comes back around.